morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today another detailed forecast update coming your way. We've got some very heavy rainfall across the central and the southeastern coasts of Queensland. We're going to be discussing that mainly in the forecast before we take a look at some winter weather later on in this video. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. Make sure you are subscribed, your support is greatly appreciated. So we're going to start things off over in central southeastern Queensland. We've got a lot of rainfall streaming ashore from this low pressure system located just offshore from Ogmore at this time. It's bringing gusty winds, very heavy rainfall to locations. We do have accumulations over 150 millimeters in the past 48 hours now, so the rainfall is really starting to stack up with this very heavy band that's streaming in between Ogmore and Rockhampton as I make this video, and about to impact Rockhampton and then communities surrounding Rockhampton such as Yeppoon and Billawilla. We're looking at a massive increase of rainfall expected over the coming couple of hours, and you can see it here on the latest frame of the radar imagery. The low pressure system itself located just inland from Ogmore at this time. It has moved further towards the west from what we have expected, and as such there is going to be less rainfall over the coming couple of days, but that doesn't take away from the immediate threat of rainfall, which is currently between Ogmore and Agnes Water at this time, streaming in towards Rockhampton with some very heavy rainfall expected. Yeppoon currently with accumulations of 55 millimeters in the past 24 hours, some greater accumulations around Rockhampton. They picked up 80 millimeters overnight with a lot more on the way, and I'll break that down for you right now. You can see here on the rainfall forecast with this low pressure system located, like I said, just a little bit further inland to where the forecast models are suggesting. So the rainfall here is going to be on the upper echelon of what is expected, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes. But you can see here the heavy streams of rainfall streaming in from the inflow bands of this, what resembles a tropical low, might I add, throughout the course of today and into tomorrow morning. The rainfall will ease out of Rockhampton by around midnight tonight into the early hours of tomorrow morning. Some showers are still possible tomorrow, but there will be nothing compared to the rainfall that's going to be coming through in the coming couple of hours. The rainfall will continue around Gladstone and Agnes Water throughout the early hours of tomorrow, again clearing out by around the early morning hours, probably about morning tea time, and then about lunchtime it will start to clear out of the Sunshine Coast. Still though, some heavy falls expected for the northern suburbs of Brisbane and the Gold Coast, with the heavy rainfall finally clearing out of Queensland and moving deeper into New South Wales throughout Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes as well. Now, there is a lot less rainfall now expected from this weather event here. That doesn't take away from the fact that we're still expecting huge accumulations across areas between Ogmore down towards Gladstone. However, the accumulations at the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane have been slashed now, and the reason for that is because the low pressure system from this system, this tropical low type system, is now inland, so it's not going to be able to fire out the amount of convection that it once was able to, which means the system is going to be overall drier and less cloudy, if you like. I've really oversimplified that, but that means that there's going to be less rainfall for areas between Hervey Bay down towards the northeastern corner of New South Wales. Now, again, looking at the inflow bands on this system, they're stretching right out to Willis Island, which, by the way, last night copped an absolute drenching of 120 millimeters. Very unexpected out there, but there is still a lot of cloud activity and a lot of convection that is still to stream ashore across Queensland, and all of this cloud activity you can see here has some heavy or some moderate to heavy rainfall in it, and as such the rainfall threat still stands to the central Queensland coastline. What I am trying to say is that the storm is going to be struggling to fire out the convection required to produce 150 millimeters of rainfall, which was once on the forecast for Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and as such the expectations for those areas has been dropped. Now, we'll break down rainfall accumulations right now. You can see over the next 3 days the biggest accumulations will be between Rockhampton and Gladstone, including Rockhampton itself, expecting a further 130 millimeters to come through today, and I reckon with the band that's about to come in and the band that's behind it, Rockhampton will receive every last drop of this 140 millimeters. I believe that they're going to pick up an awful lot of rainfall from the next couple of bands inland towards Billawilla, as well as some good rainfall out there up towards 50 to 80 millimeters expected. And the rainfall penetrating inland too for the agricultural communities around Roma and Rolleston out towards Taroom as well. You can see accumulations up towards 50 to 80 millimeters there. It does kind of drop off a cliff once you get out past Emerald, and the rainfall really does stop there, but still some decent accumulations expected for the coalfields and that sort of region of southeastern Queensland. Again, getting sidetracked here, but the accumulations for areas around Gladstone up towards 130 to 140 millimeters. This is a little bit more hit and miss. I reckon that Gladstone is probably only going to pick up about 80 to 100 millimeters of this rainfall here. Still a lot of rainfall today, but I don't think they're going to be picking up the full 140 millimeters like Rockhampton is. And then to the northern parts of the Sunshine Coast as well, you can see Hervey Bay expecting around 60 to 70 millimeters. Again, that's a very valid forecast there. I reckon they'll pick up every drop of that. But the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane picking up vastly less rainfall from what we were talking about yesterday. I mean, we were talking about spots of up to 200 millimeters inland from the Sunshine Coast, and it's amazing what a system that tracks 50 kilometers in a different different direction can do to change rainfall accumulations to some of these locations. They've been slashed by a third for some of these places. So again, I guess that is very good news for some of these places that were staring down the barrel of a potential flooding emergency from this weather event. 70 to 80 millimetres is much more manageable on the Sunshine Coast and into Brisbane. 200 millimetres will start to cause some problems there, so we're very thankful that that's not coming through. And even into the northeastern corner of New South Wales, you can see on the forecast here, especially throughout Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, there is going to be some moderate to heavy rainfall across the northeastern corner of New South Wales between Taree up towards Lismore and Cape Byron, and that heavy rainfall will persist throughout Wednesday into very early Thursday morning. Some showers still expected along the coastline throughout Thursday, but we can't be ignoring the fact that northeastern New South Wales could pick up about 100 millimetres of rainfall from this weather event. Again, you can see it here on the forecast model. Some decent falls are possible, especially in that extreme northeastern corner adjacent to Cape Byron, that sort of area. But between 40 and 80 millimetres totally possible throughout a large swathe of northeastern New South Wales, and we will touch on northeastern New South Wales a little bit later on in the forecast as well, because they do have some interesting weather coming through. But yeah, it is certainly a complex forecast with the rainfall. Like I said, the bulk of the rainfall is going to be impacting areas between Ogmore through to about Agnes Water, and then the rainfall does ease off a little bit. Still though, heavy falls are expected along the Sunshine Coast and into Brisbane, but the heaviest of the rainfall is going to be concentrated around the Rockhampton sort of area, and I have been saying that for the last couple of days. Nothing has changed in the forecast on that part. So yeah, there is it was a good forecast that was given out, especially from the forecast models. The Bureau of Meteorology also did a pretty good job with this weather system. It looks like everything is happening exactly how it was supposed to, so that is a fantastic thing. All the weather forecasters around can give themselves a pat on the back. Any questions or comments about this weather event, please do let me know in the comment section down below, and I'd be happy to give you a detailed forecast for your location. But you thought we were done? Well, we're not. We do have other hazards with this system, and it is the wind threat. You can see it here. Some gale force winds currently being reported across some of the keys along the Coral Sea Islands. I think Gannet Key down here at 42 knots winds out of the east. That's some very strong winds there, 80 kilometres an hour, gusting up to 110 kilometres an hour. And that's right, it is a tropical low, at least in nature. And this system here, it certainly does have some strong winds in it. It's a weird system for August, but if this was summer, we'd be calling this a tropical low, because it certainly is behaving like one. Peak wind gusts up to 50 knots to the coastal areas between Ogmore down towards Rockhampton. The winds down here are actually pretty calm, all things considered. But I reckon once this low pressure system gets itself offshore, which it's likely to do in the coming couple of hours because it is heading further west, further towards the east rather, the wind threat will at least pick up for areas between Ogmore down towards Gladstone. Damaging winds though still expected as far out as Fraser Island, then right through down the Sunshine Coast through locations such as Noosa or Maroochydore down towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast. We're looking at the chance of some gale force wind gusts throughout Wednesday morning into early Wednesday afternoon. Now this forecast here does actually suggest for tropical cyclone force winds to materialise for areas around Heron Island and Rundle Island outside of Gladstone and Rockhampton. I mean, you're looking at wind gusts here up to 70 knots. This is later tonight and into early tomorrow morning. And this is quintessential tropical activity, and I don't think that that's going to happen, but this system will likely rotate up quite nicely and if it does get itself back over the water, which it is a slim chance of doing, it will definitely funnel ashore some very strong winds and some very heavy rainfall later tonight for areas between Rockhampton and Bundaberg. Namely, Agnes Water and Gladstone will be picking up the worst of the conditions here. However, again, we will have to wait and see on this system because it is going to be hugging the coast, and as such, it won't be performing optimally because of its land interactions. Again, any questions or comments, please do let me know in the comment section down below. I look forward to getting back to as many people as I can throughout the course of today. And yeah, there'll be another forecast update on their system tomorrow, and we'll be recapping the system on Thursday as well. So if you're interested in coverage, then make sure you are subscribed. It's about time that we take a look down south. Before we talk about some severe thunderstorm chances across New South Wales, we do have a winter weather outlook to give, especially for the southwest corner of Western Australia, where a cold front is expected to brush up against the coast sometime later today into the evening hours of around 5 to 8 p.m. We're looking at the chances of some rainfall across the Perth metro area, up to 15 millimetres of the stuff, and potentially up to 25 millimetres across the south coastal regions for communities such as Walpole and Albany. Some decent rainfall as well expected to penetrate into the western extremities of the wheat belt, Wheatbelt. However, the northern and the extreme east parts of the Wheatbelt, not expecting too much in the way of rainfall, unfortunately. So hopefully they do get some rainfall, but again, not looking overly hopeful at this time. A second cold front brushes up the coast sometime tomorrow afternoon as well, around lunchtime, and that brings some rainfall to the south coast and a little bit into the Perth metro area as well, coinciding with a cold front sweeping through the west coast of Tasmania, causing some light to moderate showers throughout Wednesday morning for the west coast and even in towards Hobart as well, before this cold front really wraps itself up quite nicely on Thursday, impacts South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania on Friday morning with some light to moderate rainfall, nothing too crazy for South Australia or Victoria, potentially up to 10 millimetres of the stuff for the southeastern corner of Adelaide and 5 millimetres for the Eyre Peninsula and adjacent areas to said Eyre Peninsula. Some good rainfall as well into the western parts of Victoria. It certainly looks like they need that rainfall as well. They need every drop that they can get their hands on. Hopefully they get more than 10 millimetres, but at this time 10 millimetres looks like a pretty fair number to give them. But ahead of this cold front here, because it's going to be dragging in a lot of warm air, we're looking at the chance of some thunderstorms across New South Wales, which I'll touch on in just a second. Give me a minute to talk about the big cold front expected to impact the southwest of Western Australia Friday night into Saturday morning, bringing rainfall into the Wheatbelt and impacting areas as far out as the Goldfields and the Murchison region, which is unfortunately going to impact plans to some country shows happening out in the Wheatbelt region this weekend, a few of which I will be attending, one of which, the Beverley Show, I will be attending. Some decent rainfall as well expected across the southwest as a result of this cold front here. In fact, up to 50 millimetres of the stuff is possible. It certainly looks like a cold front that we're going to have to break down in greater detail in a future forecast update. I'm hoping to do that sometime tomorrow or Thursday. Again, I will keep you posted on that weather event. And then just a general stream of showers and wintry weather streaming through early next week and into the later parts of next weekend for Victoria, Tasmania and the southeastern corner of South Australia. A long-winded winter forecast, however, we need to pull things back to Friday because we do have the chance of thunderstorms across New South Wales. So to understand what's going to be driving these thunderstorms, we're going to switch the rainfall forecast over to the temperature forecast here, and you can see ahead of the cold front from about Friday mid-morning, temperatures are going to be rising rapidly throughout New South Wales and the northern parts of the state. We're looking at a daytime maximum approaching 30 degrees for some of these locations, north of Broken Hill through a line of Cobar up towards Tamworth. Locations north of those locations will be around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius above average, and combined with the cold front bringing in a lot of moisture and instability in the atmosphere in Friday, or at least from Friday mid-morning into the early afternoon hours, we're looking at the chance of thunderstorms firing up for locations south of Burke through Cobar, Hillston, and then across towards Parkes and Dubbo across the central parts of New South Wales. And yeah, some of these thunderstorms here look like they've got the chance of being severe with some heavy rainfall, damaging winds possible, and also the chance of some small hailstones across central parts of New South Wales. Along this low pressure trough here, certainly looks like there's going to be adequate conditions to fire up some decent thunderstorm activity. And you can see it here on the convective available potential energy map. A huge pool of energy is going to be available for these thunderstorms across central New South Wales. Now, these numbers are arbitrary and basically meaningless for the average Joe. I don't even understand them at times. But we're looking at up to 600 joules per kilogram of energy in the atmosphere. So certainly some interesting numbers here. This is sort of the numbers that we start to see in the later parts of spring and the early parts of summer across this part of New South Wales. So along with the unseasonable rain across Queensland or central Queensland, southeastern Queensland, we're looking at an unseasonable and very early season chance of some severe thunderstorms across New South Wales on Friday. These numbers here, I like to think that the green constitutes a chance of some strong thunderstorm activity more so in summer. So green in winter certainly does give you the idea that these it's a relatively unusual time of the year for these thunderstorms, and it looks like they could be stronger than average in some of these locations as well. Certainly a taste of spring coming through for New South Wales. I mean, we are approaching spring rapidly. We're already in mid-August, and it's not going to be long until we have to start talking about thunderstorms and cyclones and whatnot every single forecast update, and I'm very excited for that time. But yeah, it looks like overall we've got a pretty good environment for some thunderstorms across New South Wales. Great instability in the environment, great mid-level humidities, and some good temperature forecasts as well for these thunderstorms to really take advantage of. In terms of rainfall accumulations on Friday, we're looking at the chance of up to 25 millimetres of some of these locations, especially around Cobar, with isolated pockets up towards 50 millimetres. Now, again, with thunderstorms, the forecast is volatile, very difficult to predict. And it's very hard for us to hammer home details for specific locations. However, I'm going to do my best here and say that for locations between a line heading south from Bourke through Cobar down towards, I'm going to say as far south as Griffith and Hay in the southern parts of New South Wales, and then inland across a line towards Wagga Wagga, up towards Stubbo, and then up towards Lightning Ridge. Anywhere in that sort of triangle, which I'm tracing out now with a cursor, I'm not sure if you can see, expect the chance of some heavy thunderstorm activity, some strong thunderstorm activity rather, which could bring some heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and some small hailstones to pockets. Now, again, with thunderstorms, the rainfall will be very hit and miss. There'll be places that get drenched and places that get nothing, and they could be just up the road from each other, and we only know basically when they start firing up on the radar. However, I would say the highest chance of some significant rainfall accumulations would be around the Cobar sort of region. I do just think that that's where the strongest of the thunderstorms will fire up from around midday to the early afternoon hours on Friday, powered by this low pressure trough rather. Again, any questions or comments on this weather event and also the winter weather events, please do let me know in the comments section down below. I'll try and get back to as many people as I can throughout the course of this video. You can see some good rainfall is actually possible across the southern parts of Australia, especially into the southwest corner of Western Australia. We're starting to move back into a wet period to really wrap up winter, and I do feel like that's going to be the last wet period for the winter season, at least in the southwest corner of Western Australia. Unfortunately though, for Victoria, which we have drummed home in every recent video, they're just looking sad and dry with the rainfall, with limited chances of decent rainfall coming through for at least the next 2 weeks, unfortunately. So I do feel for the farmers there that have a great crop that just needs that last drop of rainfall, and unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going to be coming through on the forecast anytime soon, especially for the inland areas. I will keep you posted on the weather scene. There's not an awful lot going on behind this weather event, especially for Queensland, apart from the storms and the cold front activity for the southern states of Australia. Again, I will keep you posted though, and any questions or comments, please do let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing and leave a like on the video while you're at it as well. It really does help. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and I could not run this show without them. So again, their support is much appreciated, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.